To another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have a special guest with us, a longtime friend, Anthony Collova. I know it's been a couple of years, right? I mean, we've always somewhat kept in contact. But I think when you're on the road, we haven't been in contact.
I'm an opinionated person. Let's go.
I like it. So you're in Portland. So let's say Portland just gave you an opportunity to have All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have a special guest with us, a longtime friend, Anthony Collova. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing awesome. We just moved into a new house. We kind of had a little bit of discussion before. We're in the new place. Been on the road for 16 months right now, and so now we were in an RV. We were in airplanes. We were in Airbnbs. We were in hotels. We hit 16 or 17 countries. We settled in Portland. You can't really see everything, but there's a lot of vegetation here. So we've been acquiring a lot of house plants, which is awesome for me. Totally different change, but things are going great. How are you? How are you two guys? We haven't even talked
I know it's been a couple of years, right? I mean, we've always somewhat kept in contact. But I think when you're on the road, we haven't been in contact. And then the last 7 months has been wild for us too. I mean, we left California. We're now here in Dallas, Texas. So
right.
a lot of big moves for us in a good way. And, for us, we're just trying to get settled still and just figure everything out, just in the context of a new state and just new environment. But I mean, we're blessed,
California to Texas, new state, new political system, new weather, new fashion, new
everything, man.
everything changes, man.
Yeah,
everything.
It's good though.
But Texas is a fun state too. Have you guys been to Austin yet?
Oh yeah, we've been there. Yeah, we've been to most of the major ones. But I mean, for some reason, man, we chose Dallas, and everything's just aligning really well here, and just the people are great, and just it's a great change. It really is.
Well, that's they say that the one way that you can tell if you've made the right move is you don't feel homesick.
Yeah.
Do you feel any sense of
little bit here and there,
once in a while.
Not gonna lie.
You still call it back home?
Not as much. Not as much.
That's a good one though.
We just miss we miss that Cali weather, just spoiled weather.
Yeah, well, I'm in Portland now, and I keep on looking over here because my backyard is right there with bees, and I've got hummingbird feeders on both sides of this window.
Yeah.
Coming from Arizona, dry, dead brown. And it's actually not terrible. It's gorgeous. Arizona's gorgeous. But
it is.
The greenery is really low to the ground, so you don't have these big trees. It's just real low vegetation with different animals and stuff, which part of me misses the desert because of the allergies that I'm having up here. But the other part is this is gorgeous. I'm cool.
Absolutely.
I'm cool for a year while we
Yep,
exactly.
Well, right on, man. I mean, let's jump into this. I know you have a lot to talk about in this discussion. I know the listeners are going to get a ton of value. So we like kicking our podcast off with what's called rapid dynamic questions, Anthony. So we're going to ask you just a set of questions, just rapid fire answers, and then we'll go from there. Sound good?
Does it have to be the right answer? Because I have a lot of.
No,
I'm an opinionated person. Let's go.
I like it. So you're in Portland. So let's say Portland just gave you an opportunity to have billboards everywhere around the city. What would that billboard say?
You couldn't send me this question 3 days ago. There are so many things if I had my journal every morning, I do journaling, and I do these things called morning pages according to a book that is called The Artist's Way. And in my journaling, if I have one of these, I think in headlines and like copywriting. And so I'll bracket in my journal, and I'll print with really hard, slow and good handwriting, all of these headlines. And that's not rapid fire though, huh? I'm really getting into this. Yeah. So I have a ton of them. Something along the lines of forgiveness, kindness, humility, grace, love. I mean, love is the big umbrella for me. But what I try to recognize is that I've gone through my own transformation, and if I'm going to meet people where they are, I have to craft my message based on their perception rather than my lens. And my lens on that billboard would be like love and care for one another and community and some sort of small under 6-word affirmation that got the point across, which I'm not coming up with now. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It would be love-based though. Without a doubt, it would be love-based.
Love
your neighbor. I have a sign in my front yard when you go around Portland. There's a lot of BLM and gay pride and trans pride and all of these signs, all of this. And so we have a love thy neighbor with a bunch of different colored fists in the air. So that might be a universal, easy to understand, meet them where they are, be authentic myself kind of a message.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
I like it.
Okay. So yeah, that's a good one, man. So the next thing we would ask is, what have you learned in the past, year with this whole pandemic? If you could just sum it up like in a paragraph.
That sometimes tragedy can be a blessing with the right perspective. There's a lot of people that are going through all kinds of crazy pain and trauma and change right now. And I think it's hard to set that aside and look at my own blessings during the pandemic because I have so many. We traveled in an RV for 16 months. Oh no, we traveled the world for 6 months and then we traveled 10 months in an RV all over the country, all over the world. I got to spend every day, every hour with my best friend, with my wife, with the most amazing person I've ever met. I got to heal through sacred medicine. I got to connect to friends that I haven't connected to in a long time in new ways. I keep in touch with my friend Mark, maybe not so much of a new way, but through text message. And him and I used to talk a lot. And then when things kind of fell apart, like this new technology, the times of, text messaging or Zoom or Skype or WhatsApp or all of these apps that can connect us. I'm using those to deal with my own insecurities of the outside world after going through a massive transformation. Mm-hmm. And so I have all of these new exciting things that I want to do with the understanding that there's a lot of suffering and a lot of change happening in the world that is not being met with grace.
Yeah.
And so my opportunity then is to show up in humility, in grace, to be there for other people that are suffering, which then helps my blessings, helps my perspective, helps me give a better filter to look through on the pandemic. Because depending on the news I watch and depending on the websites I go to and the people I can get a really twisted vision of the world pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So as long as I stay in gratitude and grace and kindness and love, it's a little easier for me to accept my blessings, knowing that there's so much tragedy happening right now.
Yeah.
So I would say the biggest lesson is that sometimes things that seem like tragedy are often blessings.
Yeah. I like that. So Chris and I are advocates of just reading, man. We always say leaders are readers. So what are 2 books that you could just recommend that have just really kind of impacted you?
Yeah, that's a great slogan for people who read books. I don't read books, guys. I listen to books.
Audio too.
I have my Audible is loaded.
Okay.
Right? My wife actually has a really beautiful voice, and we're going to start a YouTube channel, Story Time with Miss Kathy, where she's just reading stories to children and stuff. But so she will often, while I drive in an RV, I'm driving 6, 7, 8 hours. She'll read, we'll go through a book, or we'll go through a couple of small short stories, or we'll do podcasts. But really, books. I can tell you some of the audiobooks and what. This is where we're going to talk about we could talk about business. We could talk about fitness. We could talk about exercise, break it up into nutrition. We could talk about heart healing. We could talk about sacred medicine. I could talk about anything. And so what the book that I give you is probably going to be dependent on what you want to, maybe your audience. So what area would you like me to go into? And I'll tell you the books that have maybe helped me the most.
Let's go into business entrepreneur.
There's a book Alex Sharfin gave me. It's called The Rule, but it's not The Rule. The purpose, the point. Hold on, I'm going to look it up. Because it's the most influential book I've ever sort of read. I don't remember.
There's so many though.
Yeah. When I was younger, I read all kinds of books on addiction, Fire in the Belly, and of course the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Fire in the Belly was the only catchy title I remember reading, but there was also The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is a really profound book when I was much younger. Yeah, I mean, do you guys want to hold on while I look this up? Because it's actually a fantastic book that I would suggest that you read if I just wasn't expecting to not remember it nor the question.
No, we're good. I want to know what book that is.
Yeah, give me just a second.
The listener's just going to have to just hold on a little bit.
You can edit it back and be like, "Hey guys, here we are."
No, I'd rather keep it authentic like this, and conversation and all that good stuff.
Sure. Well, I appreciate it, because this is Alex Sharfin gave me this book, and it was a really, really strong paradigm change for me. It really put me into a different perspective, where I was able to sort of think mathematically and logically rather than emotionally about the situation. The goal. The Goal. That's the name of the book.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend to know the name of the author, but it's brilliant, and it was written in the 70s. And the guy basically he tells a story throughout the book. It's a fictional book that he tells a story about a manager that's in a warehouse that's having a difficult time managing throughput, which is the space in between input and output, like how much gets done. And they put it in a story that ties in with his marriage and then goes back to the warehouse and then to his marriage, and they can't quite keep up, and there's parallels. And so what they do, the author, what he does is he forces you to jump to conclusions or to assumptions or to logical explanations of what might be happening. And then once you get it, he ties it into the personal life and then confirms it. And then he keeps on going back and forth between these. And it really forces you to, if you keep up with it, it triggers your brain to work in a different way. And he talks about this in the very beginning of the book, how in our school systems, we don't actually teach, we train.
Yeah. Yep.
1 + 1, what is it? You've memorized it, it's 2, but we never really, not until you get to some calculus or some advanced algebra, do you actually put some effort into the equation or to the protocol.
Yep.
So he does a really good job of explaining it in the ways that human beings learn, where I'm not training you, I'm going to give you the answer, and then I want you to get to the answer in the same way we get to the answer, with all of these little clues that help you form your opinion and get to the same answer we got. So that way it's organic, it's inception, and it makes sense, rather than just being able to memorize something and knowing that this is how you do marketing. No, this is how we do marketing, right?
Okay.
So it's a really check it out. It's Alex warned me. It is a very dry read in the first paragraph or two.
Okay.
I listened to the whole thing, and it was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So
okay.
there's that book, The Goal.
Right on. The Goal. Okay. All right. We'll check that out. All right, Ant. So you're officially off the rapid dynamic questions, man. So I'm ready to dig into this whole conversation because
all 2 of them.
Yeah. like we said, man, we go back, from literally all the way from 2010, the Lane Norton days, if it fits your macro days, all those type of things, man. So there's a lot of history, right? And I was excited to catch up with you on this stuff and just see what you're up to, kind of your transformation and all that. So I want to ask you, what had you exit out of the fitness industry? Because you went back from, again, having If It Fits Your Macros and My Oatmeal, all those days. So you've been involved in the fitness industry quite a bit.
Yeah, it was at the peak. It was IIFYM, myoatmeal.com, macrofit.com, and 4 or 5 others. And yeah, Lane Norton was my coach in 2010.
Yeah.
He was my first coach for my first bodybuilding show. What caused me to exit IIFYM? Is that the question?
Yeah. Or just the whole fitness industry itself,
That's a loaded question. The thing that I started realizing early on is that, I didn't create IIFYM, the acronym. A lot of people think I do. I never claim it. I'm the founder of IIFYM.com. Eric Kohnrich, I believe is how you pronounce his name, was the original creator of IIFYM.com. And I just kind of rode the coattails, being in the Lane circle, maybe not the inner circle, but some of the 3DMJ guys. And I was around that, at the same time. And I've always been an opportunist. So I see an opportunity and I jump on it. And at that time, I'd already had 30 or 40 domain names that made sense that I've since sold for some good money. I had Bro Science. I owned that for.
Yeah. You remember that too. Yeah.
Sold that for a pretty penny. Yogapants.com. I got that one. So, I've done these things, but I was an enthusiast. I was a fan. I wasn't At the time, I wasn't a marketer and I wasn't a professional bodybuilder or like massive. I was a guy that lifted weights. And so I happened to stumble upon the IIFYM, took the opportunity and ran with it. And it blew up and I was really good at it. I'm really good at putting complex scenarios or situations into easy to understand layman type terms. I break it down pretty. So IIFYM, eating the foods you love while losing weight and restoring a healthy relationship with food and your body. I could do that. And I did it for a long time. But in doing so, I had to learn how to be a marketer because that was not my thing. Had I been a marketer and I saw this opportunity, it would have been different. But because I wasn't, I had a very steep learning curve in the marketing I had been doing. I owned the largest collection of 12-volt car audio websites. I owned the largest collection of car audio websites on the internet for a while. And so it was a subscription model. It was a membership-based scenario. And that's not what IIFYM was. And so there was, as much as I knew about converting complex things into simple things related to nutrition, and as you know, IIFYM, it still wasn't organic. It still wasn't my thing. It was something I stumbled onto. So my heart and my head were out of sync. There was a level of incongruency between the two. And as we got bigger in revenue, in employees, in infrastructure, in demand, and all of those things, the gap between my head and my heart, which started out, okay, I can do this. I can make a bunch of money doing this and I know how to do it and I can help some people along the way. Well, a year from now, when I went from making X amount of dollars to X amount of dollars, that congruency, that gap that I mentioned earlier, Alex Sharfin talks about, got so big that the more time that goes by, the farther my heart and my head were from, I don't know if you want to call it purpose or what, but like I just, my authentic self, I just felt like I was getting farther and farther. And the more distant I became, the more nothing made sense in the fitness industry. I couldn't come up with, I could no longer be creative in marketing. I could no longer connect to my clients in a way that I really wanted to, because my stress was so high. At some point we had, I don't know, 19 employees and, you know, computers everywhere and a 5,000 square foot warehouse and all kinds of product and shit going on. And I could handle business. I've been a successful business owner for a good amount of time, but this was in a space that, while I chose to get into it, I didn't know what I was getting into when I made that decision. And as it grew, I just recognized, man, this is just, my heart is breaking, it felt like. And I'm making decisions based on money, and I'm making decisions based on lack and rather than abundance.
Yep.
And so many decisions over and over and over again of based on survival and fight or flight, or, you know, being on alert. That's the stress compounded. And at some point I just had to exit. My personal assistant, my wife, they've both been teaming up together to try to trigger a change for a couple years. And at some point it made sense.
Yeah. So take us through that. Take us through that whole change and transformation, man, because I know that there's a lot of people that are listening that they might be in the same shoes, right? To where maybe they're running a business where it's not really what they want to do anymore, and they're suffering, right? They're very unfulfilled with it, but they're doing it for, you know, X reason. So what was your solution? You know, what was the big breakthrough?
Let me back up a second, and I might ask you to repeat a shorter version of that, because I might lose track of it in a minute.
Yeah.
My first business was a hot dog cart. After that, I sold CDs on eBay for $16 a piece. Eventually, I went on to start a company called Second Skin Audio, which is still in business. I got a $700 loan from my dad. And a couple years later, I sold the company for $1 million. Right. So that right there was like a microcosm of what happens when Anthony, or human beings, are in alignment with I don't want to say their purpose, but in alignment with authenticity. When their heart and their head come together, great things can be done. And that was true for me. I was really passionate about this company. I was really passionate about the product, and I really wanted to make change. So it was easy to show up every day, right? And then I sold it and exited and started myoatmeal.com, or actually BioPulse Nutrition, and then myoatmeal.com, and then IIFYM and a couple others. And so being in alignment you can see the difference between being in alignment over there. And even though IFYM was doing 2, 3, 4 times the revenue was over there, and the money was there, and all that, and like I could go into gyms and people would ask to take my pictures. Like that was kind of cool for a minute, right? It still was. I felt it. I felt lack, and it was. I felt that lack of authenticity. And so when I exited, I think I got your question still. Walk through the transformation.
Yeah, walk through the transformation, like some steps, and then even just like the big breakthrough after.
The biggest one was leaving. It's the same for the alcoholic that has to admit, like step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Like I had to admit to myself that my life, my business, the plan had, if not become unmanageable, had manifested into something I was unable to manage. Right. So I was not the person for the company no longer because I built it as far as I could build it. So I pass it off. New management is taking over. But at the same point, 3 years prior to me exiting, when my wife and my assistant started planting these seeds, is the landscaping noise? Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we'll just have to like just edit it out as best as possible.
It's not that bad.
Okay, cool. So at the same time that my wife and my assistant were trying to get me to come away from the company, I was going through some I don't know if you guys remember this, but I tried to pivot from nutrition to self-care and to inner peace, and try to bridge make the connection that we can work out as much as we want, we could diet as much as we want, but if our hearts are not healed, if we try to treat the symptoms, we're only going to be symptomatic. We got to treat the real. So I started focusing on inner peace and self-care and personal growth and healing. And some people really weren't about that, but that was the spark for me that I knew, like, this is the direction I have to go. So at the same time, Kathy's like, you got to exit. I also had somebody ask me if I wanted to be in a documentary for ayahuasca. And at the time that would have been like 18 years or 19 years of sobriety. And so I didn't want to jump into ayahuasca, a very powerful medicine, after having 18 years of recovery from drug addiction, because it might very well trigger some of that stuff. So I had to think on it. I sat on it for those 3 years while I was trying to morph IFYM into a inner peace kind of a, like, it's still physical, but like, let's start taking care of ourselves and our bodies.
Yep.
Right. Once I exited, the opportunity, the stress lowered. The stress just went from level 11 just down to like a 2 or something like that. Then we started traveling the country. We got a one-way ticket all the way around the world, not all the way, but around a lot of countries. And that stress kind of spiked because of now the pandemic and different things. So one stress reduced, one stress went up, and I just had to learn how to juggle life, something I wasn't able to do as well while I was running the company because I was so clouded with that stress. Now that that's gone away, I'm speaking as like maybe a year ago. Now that once the stress had been removed from my life, or once I allowed myself to ease into my new reality, we decided to change our trip across Asia and Europe to go into Nepal to do a Pancha Karma cleanse for 3 weeks, which I don't want to get into it here, but Pancha Karma, just like it sounds, one word, cleanse. A lot of woo, a lot of fluff. It's Ayurvedic medicine, but it's some really cool shit. And there's some science to back it up, but there's more anecdote to back it up, and there's just as much anecdote to disprove it. But I wanted to do it because I had scheduled an ayahuasca retreat a month later, and I wanted to go into this ayahuasca retreat as clean, my body, my soul, my spirit, everything about me, I wanted just to flush. And so when we did that for 3 weeks, went to Costa Rica, did the ayahuasca ceremony. I also did 3 other magical medicines, 3 sacred medicines: Kambo, Bufo, Iboga, and ayahuasca were the 4 that I did, not in that order. This was the biggest thing that the biggest catalyst to my heart opening. It felt like my heart for the last 5 years was, or longer, pumping, but maybe crusted over like in lava. Like it felt like a crust.
I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, dude, come on. I was literally watching this video, watching this interview, and you literally just pop up on the screen and interrupt it. Trust me, there's a good reason for this. Just hold on, and I'm gonna let you get back to that interview or that video. Trust me, all right? So the reason why I stopped you on this is because we're giving away our book 100% free. Okay, so if you're a frustrated fitness professional, you're not growing fast enough, you're looking to future-proof and recession-proof your business by adding online training, or if you're doing online training, you want to scale and grow faster, all you have to do is check out our new book. We're giving the audio away, we're giving the PDF away. So all you have to do is click the link below in the description box and get your free copy. All right, so now back to the video.
Not at the time, but after. And then once I went through the ayahuasca ceremonies and the iboga, and specifically the bufo, it's like the crust just fell off my heart, like the Grinch grew 3 sizes that night, and like all of a sudden, like,
yeah,
holy shit, this is I like colors and life and animals and plants and clouds and gods and the earth and the everything was on the outside now, and that transformation has guided my left foot and my right foot ever since it happened, and I don't have any other metric of guidance. I don't have any. There's no other way that I want to live other than in love, in authenticity, in forgiveness, in grace, and in gratitude. Like that's I don't know how else to put it. Like all of what Anthony was, all of what Anthony became, as a result of crossing over my own ethical and moral boundaries. The Bible would call that sin, I suppose. But what I refer to it is like anytime, like I have my own like ethic system, right? And I go over it sometimes. We all have. If I do something that goes over my own personal boundaries or the things that I consider myself to be a good person, if I do stuff against that, I feel it. I feel it in my bones through guilt, pain, shame, loneliness, sadness, anger. Those are 6 of the 7 core emotions. The only other one is joy.
Yep.
And that one's not present when I'm fucking off. And so I don't like to use the word sin because I don't get religious about it, but I like to relate that to people because anytime that I've crossed over those ethical boundaries, I feel terrible. So what I've had to learn how to do through recovery, 22 years of no drug use, and then in sacred medicine, and then in meditation and in integration, is just learn how to be present in all that is with myself and let everything else go. Yeah. If I can be authentic and if I can tap into my true self and not cross over my boundaries, I feel fucking great.
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks teaches that our emotions are an internal guidance system, like a GPS. And if we're feeling guilty, it's like the bumpers in the bowling alley, like, hey, time to get back over to center. And if we do something that makes us feel shame, like that's a GPS signal saying, hey, dude, back to center, get alignment. Like make it right with whoever it was, make it right with yourself, make it right with your spirit, your source, your higher power, your God, your Christ, your Buddha, whatever. Like get it right through forgiveness, move forward in love and gratitude. And like when I do that, it's like I'm cleansed.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. There might be a lot of woo in what I'm talking about because I can't back it up, but that's just life now. And I don't need to be the guy that has $20 million in the bank. I don't need to, I want to have a farm with goats and dogs and her in her art studio and me growing plants and harvesting and we're one of the things we're going to do now, like when I talked earlier about like alignment and getting into congruency, right now we're looking for 100 acres to build an RV park on the front 15 acres so that on the back 20 acres we can have our own home with healing space, yoga space for retreats for ayahuasca and maybe event spaces and like an event space for like an amphitheater for like Burning Man. So we can have like local regional burns at our place or raves or parties or whatever. I want to have the RV up front, the RV lot, because that just is a money-making thing. It's easy to build. And then on the back is where we live and we heal and we help other people heal and we introduce them to different ways of living and different types of modalities like meditation or breath work, holotropic breath work or Wim Hof or all of these other things that can help us live better, more inner peaceful lives. And so when we have that property, like that right now, that's all I'm doing. That's what I'm going for, because that is 100% in alignment.
Yeah.
And so now putting my left foot in front of my right foot is like all day long. It's easy. I don't have to worry about the marketing. It's the vision is clear. So the path is clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see it the way you're telling me, like your facial expressions, your energy. I could tell that's your passion. That's your purpose.
And what's crazy, Anthony, is like, man, like, it just seems like the stress, like you said, just like completely just took over, just that meaning, like we can call it purpose, whatever. Right. But it just took over everything, right. To where it just completely paralyzed you just to not be happy and want to keep doing it.
Well, every decision I made came from a lens of stress.
Yeah.
It came from a lens of lack, where if I had an opportunity in front of me to invest $10,000 into some advertising system, I wouldn't be like, yeah, it's going to, potentially bring me this much money and then weigh the risks. I would be like, it's $10,000. That is focusing on scarcity. That's not focusing on abundance.
Yep.
Risk being the thing that you have to kind of manage in the middle. But I was so stressed out, I couldn't see opportunity.
Wow.
It was just, all I saw was, if I don't do this or that, I'm not going to make money. If I do this, I'm going to lose. Like it was on the opposite side of love.
Yeah. And do you feel like
I was fear-based decisions.
Yeah. And do you feel like that's what a lot of people are going through right now, that they're just like under so much amounts of stress, and just like to where their heart's blocked, their soul's blocked, to where just their creativity, like their opportunity seeking mindset, so that completely like just like clouded, like you said, like they're almost just trying to follow people just for the sake of doing something that's not even what they're aligned with.
Well, let's take the pandemic out of it and just say normal life, whatever the fuck that, normal marketing life.
Yep.
You guys were in the ClickFunnels crew, right? Weren't you guys? Did you guys like go to do some of the ClickFunnels stuff and like try?
I mean, we've read Russell's stuff and followed him, and we have ClickFunnels and all that stuff. But we've never been to the events.
Okay, cool. But will your audience, will they understand that stuff, or we talking more?
Yeah, they'll understand. Yeah.
All right. Love ClickFunnels. Russell Brunson, great, amazing story. Just what I think is it's full of too many. It's full of nothing. Mostly seekers, which are people that are at the, like, I don't know what to do. And here's a bunch of people that are doing something and I can do up to that. And at that point, the idea is like, all you have to be is one step ahead of your client and you're good. Right? Like, have you guys ever heard that before?
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
long as you stay one step ahead of your client, like you can still teach them.
Yep.
That is to me, that is the minimum that you can possibly do without being a fraud. The bare minimum. And it's being taught over and over and over that this is what you do, which is why you have guys that charge $25,000 for $500 sales copy, because they've been in this industry that tells them that they should be charging this. Yep. They have programs that teach people how to charge more money for the same shit. You've seen them. We've seen it. You might have bought them.
Yeah.
When the collective industry within our little space, right, let's just say, is doing stuff like that, it is really, really, really difficult for the gold nuggets to come through. We can get inspired by those things, but there's a lack of wisdom in the idea that you only have to be barely better than the next guy behind you. There's a lack of wisdom there, and I think when that wisdom is lacking, when that experience and that proof and the risk has been lowered to the point where it makes sense, when all of that stuff is lacking, there's not much that we can do to help the good stuff get through. And so it's no wonder that so many people in this industry are like trying, but they're hitting fucking brick walls. I've seen you guys have had some success, but I've seen you guys like doing it. Does it or does it not take a lot of fucking work?
100%, man. 100%.
Every day, man.
We don't sugarcoat that either.
Yeah.
We tell people we've been at it for a decade, and it's not easy, man. It's not,
it doesn't get easier.
You guys more than anybody I know fucking hustle. And that's not bullshit. If you would have asked me that a month ago, I would have said the same thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
It is not easy. And when it's not easy and it's challenging, and then you have all these things coming up against you, including the pandemic, which adds a level of unpredictability, uncertainty that just kicks our asses. Like, it is no wonder that our hearts are out of alignment. And okay, you want to throw drugs into it, you want to throw alcohol, you want to throw the sins of the father, you want to throw in a generational healing that is yet to be done. There's so many things that influence us, our family, our friends, our position, our lack of status, opportunity. All of these things come together and kind of like hit us based on our boundaries. And certain things are going to hit us harder than others based on how we've lived our lives and what lessons we've learned and what we've allowed in, and whether we think something is safe or risky. And if you look at what everybody is going through collectively in the pandemic, it's crazy. Now take the marketer and isolate the marketer in that just started a new business before the pandemic, or just started a new business on his own, invested maybe $5,000 or $10,000 he was able to save, and he gave that to some dickhead on fucking Facebook that promised him a bunch of fucking business. Whose heart and whose head is more out of alignment? I don't know. I think that we live in a system of bipolar duality, where there's two sides, positive, negative, and they're both charged, just like magnets or just like electricity. And as humans, we're just little microcosms of that electric field that have a polarity ourselves. And it just seems like we're fighting with each other over the same things that we're fighting for, and the resources that we have are dwindling. And so we get more and more, and then the people with more resources get more resources, and the people with less have less. So now you have this guy that has $10,000 that he talked his wife into investing, and he's putting everything into it, and then somebody scams him, and you don't think his heart's going to be broken even more. And that kind of stress is like what I was dealing with, and I wasn't dealing with it. Like I got hit for $17K, I got hit for $50K, I got hit for a $300,000 website. There are some people that are going through things way bigger than money. Lung cancer, heart cancer, life, COVID, all of these other things, political stuff, all of the systemic racism that the entire country is being, awoken to right now. Well, not the entire country, right? Not the entire fucking country. Many people already were, but collectively, we're going through changes, and I went through my change. I've been changing, and I went through a situation that changed me because I was ready for it. So unless these people, these fake people we're talking about, are ready for change, just like the alcoholic, that if you're not ready to admit step one, that you're an alcoholic and you need help, that life is unmanageable, if you're not ready to look at yourself and say, what do I want to do with my time? How do I want to live my life? How do I want to be remembered? If you don't put that much effort into your life, you're probably not going to put that much effort into your business. And then the business is just going to be a reflection of your current central nervous system, your current state of affairs, your current stress level, your current relationship with yourself, with everybody, but with yourself. It's always about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So if we can get people to like want that, then change can happen. But I've found it very difficult to have the conversations with people that get them to want to change. And so what I find is best is just to tell my story.
Yeah. And this is honestly, like, Anthony, man, I appreciate you just being so open, like vulnerable about this, because this is the shit that people need to hear and the important stuff. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. So my next kind of like way I want to segue this into is for the listener. So obviously, like, we work with fitness professionals. So that's my number one, like, thing that I care about the most right now is serving them right now. So with this topic that we're talking about that is so damn important, right? Like, what would be your best advice if they run kind of like a heart-based business, right? And they incorporate the self-care, the inner peace, the forgiveness, and the healing, right? How do we incorporate all that together to become like a better entrepreneur or business owner, or whatever you want to call it,
I need you to, I'm sorry, but I must ask, can you please rephrase the question?
Yeah, I know it's a loaded question, man. So right now I'm just thinking about like our listeners, which I care about the most, right? And our fitness professionals who we serve. It's so hard being an entrepreneur and a business owner in this crazy world. That's kind of where I'm getting at. And what you're talking about is so important with the self-care, the inner peace, the forgiveness, the healing. How do we kind of like utilize all that into like becoming a better entrepreneur or business person, so we don't get that stress clouded feeling that had to deal with, or somebody else?
Okay. I have a couple of things I think about, but I don't have any answers, right?
Sure,
So if I had how about we do this? If I had a heart-centered entrepreneur come to me as a life coach, maybe how would I treat them? What kind of things would I walk them through? Would that answer your question?
I like that. Yeah, that'll help out. That's a great way to frame it. Absolutely.
Okay. So what I coach is inner peace, and most of what I coach, I've got self-care on my knuckles because I needed the reminder.
I was wondering what that said.
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be self-care, but my wedding band is on this finger, which you would put your ring on, but I got a tattoo that said Mr.
Okay.
And I didn't, because I worked out and I didn't want to have a wedding band when I was doing,
Yeah.
cut into your callus. And so I put Mr. right there and some stuff. And then when I got the self-care, I was like, fuck. So it self-came is what it is. But okay, whatever. It's important to me, taking care of myself, taking care of others. And when somebody comes to me looking for a way to ignite some inner peace in their own system, usually it's not that they want inner peace. They usually want something else, right? They use more money or this or that. And then something sparks, they come to me. And what I do is I try to get them to understand that their brain is like a microprocessor, a supercomputer or something like that. And the words that you two speak, the words that I speak, these are programs that can affect or influence the microprocessor. And the more we are subjected to the same messages, the more those messages stick and become our own messages, right? But at some point, the messages that used to help us and protect us and serve us, we may have created something painful or distracting or traumatic as a way to protect us from something traumatic. Like if somebody has some sort of really big physical abuse, they might internalize and then blank out memories, and that sets them up for a certain way for the rest of their life, right? So the more we like sponges absorb these messages around us, the more we believe them, and the more we become whatever. If you put a sponge in ketchup, eventually it's going to be a ketchup sponge. Right? If you put a ketchup in water, this is going to be a water sponge. And so the more positivity that you soak up, the less room there is for ketchup. And so the simple thing that I bring this up and people are like, are you serious? I'm like, are you doing it? Affirmations.
Yeah.
Positive affirmations are the number one tool that I have in my toolbox of turning people around, for paradigm shifts, for perspective, lens, filter changes, which once you are able to slide your own perspective and through a paradigm change into life, and you're able to see life through those goggles, opportunities start blossoming up everywhere because they're new lenses. If you put on a filter that only shows you crap, you're only going to see the crap. Right? And so what I try to do through affirmations is get people to start repeating through writing and through speaking and through visualization, through anchoring, through emotional anchoring to the five senses. Like if I have you do a positive affirmation, like give me an example, Eric, what's one thing you're working on in your life right now? What's one thing that you can't fix, that you're like, whatever it is, like I just can't stop eating that I can't stop getting up in the middle of the night to stop eating? Or is there something like that, a habit that you want to break that you can't?
I don't really, nothing really habit wise that I can think of. I just think maybe being too hard on myself, just always wanting just that next thing, which it's like a double-edged sword. So it's just never satisfied. And that's one thing that it's just tough, because it can go both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris,
I'd say the same thing, man. Just, I
know you're twins.
I related with you though a lot with that, Ant, what you said about the stress, man, because I get to that point where I worry more than he does, and I stress out more, to where sometimes my lack of creativity, it just gets clouded. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like I almost get like dumbed down to where it's just like my confidence goes down. Or I just feel stupid. I can't even like think of something like intellectually, like to where it's like, dude, I've read all these books, had all these mentors, done all these things, but I get like so dumbed down to where it's just like, holy shit, like, am I that dumb? Or like, what am I going through right now? That type of thing, Do
you have a system to get you out to change your state when those moments hit?
The morning routine is the biggest thing. If I don't do my morning routine, man, like my mindset is just completely off. Like it's not primed for like abundance, like positivity, like serving, you know what I mean? So I have to do that.
You don't have a system when you're triggered by that, like in the moment.
I go for a walk or something like that, and just get away from the phone or anything like that. Just go for a walk, and
Cool. So here's something you can do. I'm not your coach, I'm not your counselor, but I'm just going to give you a tool that I would give that guy we were just talking about. Affirmations. The first affirmation, let me write it down because I need to write some things. Let's just look at fucking procrastination. The easiest one would be, I don't procrastinate. Okay, well, now that has don't in it. So what I might do is I might pull the word don't and I would change it and say, okay, what is the same message? I don't procrastinate. I leave the house early. I leave 5 minutes early. That's my affirmation. That's action. And then I go into emotion. I respect the time of others. And then I go into transcendence. I respect my own time, which turns into I respect myself. These are the 3 or 4 affirmations I would give myself in evolutionary order of progression based on the message I'm trying to combat, which is I procrastinate. I find something that battles that or combats, I procrastinate, and I lay it out. So now I have these 4 affirmations that I can give myself. The first one has don't in it, which is a negative, which we want to stay away from. But it makes sense. I don't procrastinate. I don't procrastinate. I could write that down 1,000 times. Yeah. I can say it out loud while I'm driving in the car. It's super easy. If I want to level up, I leave the house 5 minutes early. I respect the time of others. I respect my own time. I respect myself. We write these, we say them out loud, we anchor them with emotion, we look at them in the mirror, and eventually what happens, because we are sponges and we're soaking up all the information around us, we are now creating our own energy. We are manifesting, we are speaking into existence. We can go spiritual. We're speaking into existence the frequency of life that's coming through that we want to attach ourselves to, or we're speaking into existence that part of us that was there from our creator. We're speaking our truth. We're exploring the divine imagination. Whatever the fuck you want to say, we are now in tune with something greater than ourselves. We are supplying ourselves with our own needs rather than relying on the external environment of our upbringing and our society to give those messages to us. We're going to get those messages all day long. So for the sake of duality, polarity, I need to combat all those messages with my own. So those are the affirmations that I give to my microprocessor in 3 or 4 different ways, from 3 or 4 different angles, 3 or 4 times a day, over and over and over until that message sinks in. Can I share with you a quick anecdote as to why I believe affirmations are so powerful?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, no, please. I want to hear it.
When I was I went into treatment for drugs at age 21 or 22. My counselor, my therapist at the time, I was in rehab for 7 months, plus a bunch of therapy afterwards and stuff. But my therapist at the time saw that I was struggling with 2 things, a bunch of stuff. But the biggest thing was that I would if I screwed up, I would verbally say the words out loud. I remember I was pouring milk into a cereal bowl. And if you do that before you put the cereal in, there's a good chance the milk is going to scoop out of the bowl. So I did this one simple thing like I've done 1,000 times, and it happened. And I was like, you fucking idiot. God, you're so stupid. What the fuck is wrong with me? Those 3 phrases were like ingrained in my head. And the reason I would do that is because it got to the point where if I hurt myself before you hurt me, you could never do anything to me. And I had already heard those messages for so long. At some point, they probably protected me from something, but now they're distracting me from usefulness. And so by changing that message from I'm so stupid, what the fuck is wrong with me, I'm such an idiot, right, to I do not shame myself and I learn from my mistakes. That was my affirmation. He had me give myself that affirmation in front of the mirror, looking in my eyes while smiling 20 times, it's 100 times a day, 20 times, 5 times per day. So anytime I peed or brushed my teeth, if there was a mirror, 20 times. I do not shame myself. I learn from my mistakes. I do not shame myself. I learn from my mistakes, because those were the 2 things that I couldn't. So I was giving myself these affirmations for about 6 weeks. It's about what it takes for me. Mm-hmm. And I was walking down the street in Prescott. I remember I was heading west on this main road. My shoes were untied, and I let them be untied. What happens? Well, kid trips on his own shoelaces, falls in the street, hurts his ankle. I scuffed my ankle on the curb. First thing that comes into my head, I'm so stupid. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm such an idiot. But at a billionth of a second behind that, I do not shame myself. I learn from my mistakes. Instead of it coming out, now I had it on my internal movie screen or whatever.
Yep.
Options. And I was like, for the first time in 22 years, I had a choice as to how I reacted or responded to a situation. I didn't have to react. I could respond, right? I could form an action based on intention. So once these two things popped up in I was like, well, I've been giving myself this affirmation and this is, all right, what do we do? And then I said, and then it just came out. I do not shame myself. I learned from my mistakes. And I said it about 10 times out loud on the side of the street because I was so used to saying it out loud. I was now practicing it. Now the sponge was getting squeezed a little bit. And instead of shit coming out, my messages were coming out. And because my messages were coming out that I crafted from intention, now I was able to make the choice as to how I move forward. And I decided to move forward in love. And so I continue to give myself that affirmation. I tied my shoe. I've never tripped over my shoelaces again since then, because I learned a lesson at age 22 that I probably could have learned at age 5. But it took me a while to learn that lesson, just like you have lessons and all of our listeners have lessons. When we start identifying the way we win our life, with the way we want to live our lives, we're able to visualize that and to construct it and to make choices that person would make if they were in our shoes. Like right now, like here's another thing that I give my clients is like, don't make the decisions that you guys would make when you're faced with stressful choices. Make the decisions that guy would make. The rich version of Eric, the rich version of Chris, the intellectual, the smart, the jacked, the lean, the kind, the generous, the spiritual, whatever that title is. Put that guy in the driver's seat next time you have a decision to make and watch how much your life changes. Another tool that I give my people. So I don't know if that exactly answered your question, but that's kind of the process that I run.
Super interesting, man.
Man, that's a lot of value and a lot of gold in there, Anthony. So I appreciate you just even sharing that story, man. So I know that the listeners will get, a lot out of this. So, man, we're coming up to the end of the conversation. This has been great. And I know that even if it hits one person, that's all that matters here, right? There's a lot of good stuff in here. Yeah. So
I want a part 2, Anthony.
Yeah. So I know right now you're not big like on social and stuff, but is there any way like the listeners can connect with you?
You know what? I've got an Instagram that you know what? How about my self-care page on Facebook?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. I've got a self-care page. There's like 700 or 800 people. I go in there, I post memes, I give affirmations, I give good guided meditations. People show up. I'm not trying to run it like a business. I'm not trying to push it. I do have, I still do coaching for limited clients. It's expensive. It's a big deal. And it takes a lot out of me. Yeah. So the page is on Facebook. It's a group. It's Self-Care Secrets. So they could just go to Facebook/groups or .com/groups. I think it might be Self-Care Saturday, but it's called Self-Care Secret. You'll find it. And just answer the questions and get in. And then I'll just, if anybody wants to reach out and they have some questions on how affirmations work or how to develop a strategy of inner peace, how to heal trauma, I can send them in the right directions. I'm not the guy that's going to fix them, but I can send them in the right directions. And if somebody comes to me like in need of like wanting a coach, I still do that stuff. But for special situations for people that really resonate, because if they don't resonate, I don't want that incongruency to be there and have them not have the results that I hope to give. Right. So I really vet people really hard. And if you want to get in on that and you want to learn how to do affirmations and forgive yourself, it's really what it comes down to is forgiveness. Hit me up on the self-care page.
Okay. Awesome. No, we'll have that link. Yeah, we'll definitely link that up in the show notes. So guys, go take advantage of that resource and what Anthony's offering. But yeah, real quick before we leave, man, I just want to commend you and just again say thank you for your time and just everything you shared today, just the vulnerability, just the journey. I really enjoyed just everything, and I'm proud of you, man, just for pulling through everything and just this whole new journey in your life. So keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. It's an honor to watch you grow.
Thank you.
You guys hit me up every 6 months. I'm like, hey, I'll get back to you in a week. And then, like right now we're still moving in and stuff. So, but I appreciate you both. And I really appreciate your hustle, because you guys are out there more than most people, like making it work. You're not trying to get it. You're no longer trying to figure it out. You're pushing through. Right. And that is what I think more people need to see. They need to see that it's not just showing up and oh, I signed up for the program and now I have an ATM machine that'll just crank out money whenever you want. It takes effort and it takes work. And if you're going to do it, you may as well be aligned with source, with spirit, with your own highest self, with the goals that you want to bring to this planet. Like, why would anybody want to do anything that what is truly in their hearts? Like, that is the only thing worth exploring. Yep. Because that's the one thing that can affect everybody else's hearts too. It's when we focus on everybody else that things get kind of weird. So I like the fact that you guys are able to focus on yourselves, that you have a spiritual practice, that you take that spiritual practice and that physical practice, you kind of intersect them with your clients. It's nice to see people doing things without all the dark side of our sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
man.
you so much, man.
That.
Really appreciate that. And other than that, guys, go check out what Anthony's doing, his resource, and we'll connect on part 2 or something.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Thank you.
You're
it's
welcome.
Been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Thanks, Anthony.
Gratitude and blessings.
Hey, thanks so much for watching that video and that interview we just did with Anthony Collova, talking about self-care and taking care of yourself and really, really digging deep on working on your mindset as an entrepreneur and a fitness professional as well too. So if you like that and you guys want more nuggets with other fitness professionals that are absolutely crushing it online right now, getting to 6 figures, serving people, creating more income, impact, influence, and independence, watch this video right here as they give you guys their #1 lead generation tactics and secrets to what's working so well for them. So watch this video right here and we'll see you guys next time.